Hello and welcome to my new game room here in Utah. I live near there. I don't live near there, but that's beautiful. Anyway, we're going to do something that is very impromptu. I should have done this. I'll tell you what, the completion of that Kickstarter, it's still not done. There's some other issues still pending, and it's been far more frustrating than I would have liked. And so my attention's been focused there to try to make sure everybody gets their pledge. I mean, we're 99.9% done, but it's a big number. Anyway, that's just an explanation, not an excuse. I should have had something that gave a little quick and dirty how to pack into the mothership characters, because I'm running into people who are finding some difficulty with where do I put tiles, where do I put guests, and so on. This really is pretty simple, and in general, Obsession has a very simple principle, which is that almost all tiles and cards just go in their respective spots, in their respective Gentry decks, whether casual or prestige, or they go in the bag. There's very few exceptions. But Obsession has been a journey, which I want to thank you all for being on that journey. And part of that journey has been from me being a rank amateur to someone who knows a little bit more what he's doing down the road. So there's been some things that have created a little bit of confusion, and I hope to clear it up here. So this is a new box. It's one that the plastic was torn off. This here is your player aid for the new past turn of playing with the characters board. Let's set that aside for right now. This here is a real question. Not only was it a bit of a pain because I got a production copy that had a thinner stock than I expected, but also it's been in other places. It's been in the useful box before. It's also been in upstairs, downstairs, and the main punch board since 2023. You might ask why that's the case. I did a video called The Idiot Designer Diary, which I'm going to put in a link below. I'm not going to rehash it here except to say that I made these two tiles, the business room, which is a great tile, and the alternate west terrace, which I use exclusively, that allows you to have a way to get rid of guests every turn when you get caught with the red hand of death. Those were promotional tiles, and I found out something with regards to promotional tiles. You have to make promotional materials available to everybody. And when I originally did that promotional tile, it was limited. And so I've always been trying to correct the fact that it's limited. You can watch that video if you're interested in why I named it The Idiot Designer Diary. But anyway, the thing you need to realize with any tiles in Obsession, except start tiles, which we don't have to talk about. Everybody knows the start tiles are going in the family boxes and that there's 6 copies of those. But every tile, improvement tile, every other improvement tile never has more than 2. So if you have upstairs, downstairs from 2023, you don't need these. If you got the useful box in 2021, you don't need these. I'm just providing these because in 2020 through 2022, upstairs, downstairs did not have these. And the useful box, there was only ever 5,000 of them. And we're approaching 50,000 Obsession owners now, all over the world. And so I have to keep making these available. So these are the 2 important tiles. They're used in co-op, and it's a great tile from Tony Boydell of Snowdonia fame. And this really, if you've got these, you can just throw this board away. You can take these 2 tiles, get rid of that thing, and put those 2 tiles in your bag and never worry about having to separate them or do anything else. They're part of the normal tile bag. So that's number 1. Again, go to the link below if you really want to find out why those tiles have been traveling through multiple products. This here is your sideboard for characters, and this is your co-op board right here for co-op. You do get the 3 rule books, and these 3 rule books, you might say, Dan, stop writing so many rule books. Well, the variant catalog, I think, stands on its own as a good idea. This is user and some designer ideas for just different ways to play. So that's a one-off. That's a good thing, but it doesn't really involve you wanting to play the characters expansion as I have developed it. So that's just something that you can have if you like it. If you're a person who doesn't like variants, you can set it aside. This is co-op, and that's got to be independent too, because co-op has a bit to it, and that can be set aside with co-op. So really, this is the rule book for the characters expansion. And the question arises next is about cards. And this card situation is really pretty simple. Second Chance Servants player aids, and those just go in your family boxes. Boom, that's done. Then you've got solo. Ton of solo content. I love my solo players. I myself play quite a bit of solo, and this just goes with your solo stuff. Now you get here and you've got the module, which is the Distinguished Family Members. And these just go directly into your boxes. So every family box should have a regular set of family cards and a distinguished set of family cards. And I'm not going to go into how you draft for those. It's relatively simple. When you pick, if you're playing with distinguished family members, when you pick your board, you're also picking a unique distinguished family member. That's broken down in that book quite nicely. So that, boom, into the family boxes. And that leaves all of this here. So that gets us to these 4 stacks. She's an Easter egg. We love her. I'm sure a variant will emerge, but, not intended for real play. Obviously, what's that favor going to do for you? And how are you going to have Duchess Lilo, who she snottily says is her servant, be the servant? So that's a cute card. Don't worry about that. All of these here, which are just standard cards, they have some new favors, and they're discussed in that rule book. But all these just get integrated into your casual and prestige deck. You should never separate your expansion Gentry after you play the game. Every Gentry that is of a standard variety, and that would be all the 37 Gentry that are in the upstairs, downstairs expansion, the 20 Gentry that are in, to go on these numbers from memory, in Wessex, they just go in the deck and they stay in the deck. They never come out of the deck. But we got 2 special situations here. And what I would suggest is if you're a regular co-op player, you're probably going to do something along the lines of what I do, which is to take something like this black box and keep co-op components in it, or keep it in the characters box. So this box is going to get thrown away by a lot of folks. Your co-op can go in there and don't mix them. You're not losing out if they're not in your deck, but I would just separate those with the distinct co-op materials, which also includes the dice and these red markers that you see there, right there. So take the Valid and the Reverend out. But that just goes in a co-op box. That's what I think this is the best for, because co-op is a hot, cold thing. There's people who don't want anything to do with co-op. There's people who are going to play a ton of co-op. It's a nice box for those components to add to your obsession game. And that gets you to your exiles. I would say if you are, for some reason, not interested in playing characters, you just shove them in your decks and you're fine and never worry about it again. If you do play with characters, and I really do recommend it, it's such a great option when you get into that occasional game where you've got the feeling of doom because luck is not going your way. It's just such a great option. Anyway, if you are going to play with this, then these are the one thing that I would separate. And that's also what that box could be for. So for example, I'll peek over here. Here's my main deck of Gentry cards. I don't separate them all at all. So this here contains even the promos from upstairs, downstairs, which I usually put a limit at 3, and if I hit a 4th one, then I just say, hey, we're done taking promos, draw again. But that's all. That's my Gentry. That's the big boy. I know you're seeing a rubber band, you're having a heart attack, but I have 10,000 decks in my spare room, so I'm being lazy. So for specials, that's why I created this box, because this box has got my exiles in it. It's got my objective card deck. It's got that deck there. It's got my new characters and second chance servants, and I put a couple of pawns in there. And now I've got all my cards, and my extra servants go there. This was designed to fit right there. You can see how nice that is. This here will fold right like that, and I can put that, and I can put that. I don't keep rule books. I don't need to. I know you guys do. And then I'm done. So that's what I would do with the exiles, is I keep them separate. But if you're not going to use that, just throw them in. And now it gets real simple because we're down to here. There are only 2 weirdo cards. That's these fiery sermons. There's 52 of these, I'm going from memory. And these 2 fiery sermons. These 2 fiery sermons are not referenced in that book because they're a co-op component. So remember we talked about sequestering our co-op. those would go over there. They would never be used in a standard obsession game. So those are dedicated to co-op. Now you see the little raven. That's just to help you identify that. You also, for the rest, these are objectives. These are in the objective card deck because in co-op, it's an objective choice to use the Reverend to basically preach a sermon to stop the local craftsmen from dealing with the corrupt snades. So, and they belong in that same pile. That's why they're all part of this. But if you're not a co-op person, kick them aside. If you are a co-op person, put them with your co-op stuff. Now, there are objectives that are left. And there are 2 objectives that are going to have Raven at the top. These 2. These are the 2 starting objectives for Sneed in the co-op mode. If you're not playing co-op mode, they're just regular objectives. There's no removal. And this is your objective card deck forever. So don't be afraid of this guy. This is a beautiful deck. I think it's balanced exactly like I want it to be balanced now. Amateur Dan, when he was developing objectives, I got a little swingy on some things. And that's it. Sorry for the long video. Hopefully it helps, folks.